It's out of our control. It's not like he wants to kill. He just doesn't want to die. You know what I'm saying? It's that situation when you got, we are living in a war zone. I feel like I can represent my generation so much because I honestly did not care whether I lived or died. But now, I cannot die. I can't leave until this straight. You know, I'm not suicidal. I can't go until y'all really know what time it is. And then after that, boom, it's all over. And we can see, you know, how this fall. But that's how it is. And the reason being is because if I can't live free, if I can't live with the same respect as the next man, I don't want to be here. Because God has cursed me to see what life should be like.
I said we ain't no loafers, we ain't no poachers, we ain't no haters of self, we ain't no vultures. This ain't our culture. I said this ain't our culture. I said we ain't no loafers, we ain't no poachers, we ain't no haters of self, we ain't no vultures. This ain't our culture.
Y'all heard it. This ain't our culture. All right. This is not our culture. This is not how we get down. Can y'all hear me? First of all, are we good? Are we A1? All right, perfect. That's good. So my bad. I didn't mean to clap so loud. So we're gonna get straight into it. Y'all know I got a whole whiteboard that's cleaned off. You know what I mean? I'm ready to take some notes. All right, because this conversation is gonna get heavy. You know, just because of the fact where we left off last on Tuesday. All right, but before we get into that, let me go ahead and run this quick little disclaimer before we go ahead and get started. You know, you tapped into Top of the Top with King Phillip under the Make a Culture Move podcast, where we talk about the issues within the Black and brown community that don't get spoken upon. You know, and these issues has been laying dormant because nobody has spoken on them to the point where they have become very destructive and deadly. All right, but again, these are my opinions. These are, and again, all of them is just our opinions. All right. But with that being said, too, we didn't need to go out and do a whole lot of research to back up our views. You know what I mean? What's going to back up our views is the experience that we lived. All right. So I'm saying all that to say that we are the experts. All right. The quote unquote experts, they go get data from us to make them the experts. So we cut them out, you know, fuck the middleman. All right. So also being said, if we say something that make you feel some kind of way, look, you know, because y'all keep hitting me, you know, and I appreciate I accept the feedback and I get it. You know what I mean? Y'all wanna tell me how y'all feel at any point. If y'all want to tap in, y'all let me know y'all want to tap in. And y'all can tell me how y'all feeling, you know what I mean, face front and stuff like that, and we can have a conversation, you know what I mean? But at the same time, if what I say make you feel some kind of way, please take the time to reevaluate why what was said made you feel that way, all right? Because I'm going to just look at you like, is he still there? He's still there. Is he still there? Yeah, he's still there. Shit. All right. You know what I mean? Just some silly shit. You know what I mean? So saying all that to say, yeah, you know, we gonna enjoy this conversation. So let me go ahead and do this quick little rundown. All right. Man, we got a whole new little thing. Sure, they done did their thing with the page and everything. Shout out to the youth, first of all. You know what I mean? Just coming through and spicing the page up and everything. It's all fancy and stuff now. Y'all gotta see it. Y'all gonna see it. It's all fancy, but check out the the makeachessmove.org website. You know what I mean? Go through the donation, check out the toolkit, copy and paste the text, copy and paste the picture, send it to your folks. All right. Go to the website page, go to the donation tick, scroll down to the bottom, go to the, you know what I mean? Fuck shit. You know what I mean? Y'all know what I mean. All right. Do that. All right. Check out the Facebook page, /Macam303. Check out the Instagram, /Macam303. Go ahead, do the Twitter thing too, /Macam303. And go ahead and check out that Pinterest thing. I don't know if I'm saying this wrong. Because, you know, every time I say it, people want to start smiling and laughing. You know what I mean? And I'm like, well, y'all know what the fuck I'm talking about. Go check it out. You know what I mean? So, with that being said, let's go ahead and bring in our guest. Let's go ahead and bring in our guest today because we got another live conversation. All right. And this conversation, it wouldn't be right if we didn't have our guest in on this conversation. You know what I mean? So, first of all, top of the top to y'all. You know what I mean?
Top of the top.
Little, let's do a little names real fast so people know.
What did you say, Phillip?
Let's do a quick little run names so people know who y'all is real fast. You know what I mean?
Sure. So I'll go first, and I guess I interrupted you. I'm Nisha J. I am born and raised on the east side of Denver. Background is in mental health and relationships. I work in the IT field, and I'm happy to be here.
My name is Tay. I was raised in Denver and I went to Manual High School. And yes, I'm also happy to be here.
Hey, James Harvey, representing the east side of Denver. Here for some great commentary.
All right.
E-Hub is in the east side of Denver as well. I work for the greatest place in the world, Macro, and happy to be here.
That's a bet. That's a bet. So, first of all, last Tuesday, on Tuesday, I keep saying last week and on last Tuesday, just this past Tuesday, we were talking about, what it's like being black in Denver. You know what I mean? And we talked about, just looking at it from the stance of some places we're the only black folks when we walk into the building. We're expected to act a certain way. We're expected to know how to code switch. We have went and hit a whole bunch of nails, you know what I mean, when it came to this conversation. My man James, he had asked a question in the sense of, with all the interracial relationships and all the interracial dating that's going on in Colorado. You know what I mean? Because that's like, I haven't been and lived in outside of Colorado except for when I was in prison, but that don't count. You know what I mean? Because it's not like you living in a world type shit. You know what I mean? But I'm saying all that to say that I haven't experienced or seen what relationships are like in different states. I don't know if it's as big as it is, like it is in Colorado. But he was saying all that to the point of him asking, does that have, is that some kind of issues? Do we have some kind of issues with our blackness? You know what I mean? When we go that route, or if we go that route. And then Huff was getting ready to jump in there. What was you saying, Huff? You know what I mean? I want to make sure that we jump back in where we had left off. You know what I mean?
Man, I'm telling you, I don't remember exactly what it was that I was going to say then, but I just remember James had asked the question around why is it that us black men value light-skinned women or white women more than we value our black skin? Is that right, James? Is that what you asked?
You know what? That was kind of it. That was that was kind of the gist of it. What creates that separation? Why we, view ourselves as less than, and we reach out, to, people, necessary. And the thing about this, then the point of it is I want to try to make sure to point out where that separation is starting, because at the end of the day, black skin, dark skin, black women, light skin, black women, we all black people. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So my main thing is just pointing out what is it that makes dark-skinned black people kind of hate their own, or dark-skinned black men focus on lighter-skinned women.
Yeah, well, I just kind of want to speak to really like a story on that. And I remember what I was going to say is like growing up in the East Side, we always heard of the girl with like the East Side ponytail. The ponytail that ain't nothing but about an inch long, and they would talk so damn bad about her and tell her she ain't got no hair. Mom done put a perm in her hair when she was about 4 or 5 and burn it all out. Like there's just endless amounts of roast. And I just remember like being as a kid, you internalize like that hatred for like the natural dark-skinned girl in the neighborhood with the beauty, may not have as long hair as like a more light skin colored girl. But I don't know, it starts early. I can answer it from there. In the beginning, it's like we internalize it super young in the hood, is that we just don't appreciate our dark-skinned sisters. I don't know if we've heard it more from the white side who demonizes it, and we constantly want to be pushed and assimilate to their culture. But it's something that's definitely picked up when we're young, like very, very young. And it's something that carries on further and further. And as you become an adult and you start to have more control over your, freedom and wealth, you naturally get to be exposed to more ethnicities. And if you've already got that internal hatred of not valuing the dark-skinned woman, when you start meeting, white women, Chinese women, women of other ethnicities, it's like giving a baby more candy. Like, it's just feeding that hatred. It's feeding that mentality you've already developed. And then you start seeing the financial divide, and you start seeing how they have so many more resources and they just live life more fun than what we do in the hood. And then you'd be like, not only do I not think this girl isn't pretty, but also shit, she broke, just as broke as I am. She don't bring the value to the table that this girl is bringing, and she look better than this girl to me. So shit, I'm not going back to my sister in the hood. So it's just something that definitely we get from a young age.
And let me go ahead and tap into that point too, if you don't mind. Go ahead, James. I saw you was gonna say something.
Bro, quickly, I was going to say, and too, I just want to point out this from a different angle, because not only does that hate, affect, just how we view ourselves as dark-skinned Black people, but, even have I love Tay being here, because, one thing that's always been interesting to me is that you have Black women like herself who have no animosity towards dark-skinned Black women, who love Black people in general, but then get hate just because they're a little bit lighter. So, I mean, that it kind of even reaches, it's even more than just light-skinned women getting accolades. They end up getting some of the hate, you know what I'm saying, too, which is further separation. So I just wanted to, look at the picture from all those different angles.
And to add on too, I right on for throwing that out there too, James. Because I'm adding on. I want to throw out there too. Being younger, I didn't appreciate dark-skinned women until I got older. All right, I didn't appreciate the beauty behind all that until I had got older. All right, and that was because me being young as well, and I was the butt of all Black jokes as well. So me trying to find the beauty in this when I was younger was hard. So how would I find the beauty in somebody else's Black skin when I couldn't even see the beauty in mine? You know what I mean? So when Tanisha was saying they'd rather be my homie instead of date me, I was, Tanisha, that was my nigga. You know what I mean? Like I said, if it wasn't for her, like, shit. You know what I mean? I was taking like AP classes, and I know for damn well I wasn't supposed to be in them bitches. You know what I mean? So, and even on the strength of just talking to her like she was the homie. Just a beautiful factor of her didn't expose itself until we became adults. You know what I mean?
Ladies, I want to let y'all tap in, you know what I'm saying? Because I really want to get y'all's perspective.
Please.
But bro, I want to even just jump back onto this, man, and it's so deep. And this is why I always try to get back to the trauma. Because all of this shit stems from our position as slaves and the separation, you know what I mean, in order to, divide and conquer, you know what I'm saying? Regardless of if these people really have more in common than they even know. We've been put against each other. And, it's almost like dark-skinned Black people, we've been taught, you know what I mean? We've been taught to, not like our hair because people call it nappy. We've been taught to, you know what I'm saying, not like our skin. And like you said, even talking about a lot of dark-skinned Black women whose hair doesn't just grow long down their back. We don't value them in certain ways. And man, it just seems like all of this really stems from trauma that we still have not healed from.
I absolutely agree, James, and I definitely think that slavery certainly plays a big part in it, because your lighter slaves were in the house because they were more appealing as far as appearance goes. The closer their tone was to the master, the more that they were, even if they were still on the bottom of that totem pole. They were higher than the field slave. And so for I know me growing up dark, it wasn't that I hated the light-skinned girl. It was more of a jealousy thing. But when you're younger, you don't know how to just express that. And it's because I wasn't represented anywhere, like in media or anything. You're not seeing the dark-skinned woman on TV or on the commercial, or like my skin tone, my hair was not what was considered beautiful. So if you've got the entire world telling that you're unattractive, you're not gonna see anything that's beautiful and be like, oh well, you know what, never mind, I'm still cool. Like I was like Philip, like if what I see is ugly, then I can't expect anybody else to see anything that's beautiful. So I hated myself as much as everybody else did. And so it was the light-skinned girl that I learned to do the opposite of maybe some of my other dark-skinned friends, was not to hate her, but to befriend her, because she was my way in, because there was no way I was getting past that on my own, not looking the way I looked. Even though there wasn't actually anything wrong with me, there was something wrong with me, just for the simple fact that my hair was not long and just growing ridiculously wild, beautiful and curly, or that my skin was, as dark as it was. Those things were not beautiful. Those were not things sought after. And then, Philip, you said something really important. It wasn't until I got older and kind of left college that men really started being like, oh, you're beautiful, or oh, I want to date. Then I was pretty. Like I didn't date a lot when I was in high school, or even in middle school, with boys just, liking you or passing you a note or whatever. That never happened until I got older, when there seemed to be like a change in trend, where now all of a sudden everybody is accepting Black women and we're being taught, embrace your naturalness, embrace your beauty. Because I went my whole life trying to look like somebody I wasn't. I wore long ass weaves and everything, and I hated it. And I remember when I took it out and finally just wore my own hair so I could start trying to grow it out, because it had been so damaged from, processing it so much and doing so many things to look like everyone else. Everybody was shocked and they're like, oh my God, why did what's going on with your hair and this and that? And I'm like, this is my hair. This is the hair that I was born with. I need to try to maintain this. But that wasn't okay until about 7, 8 years ago.
For me, it's like when you brought up the point of when the lighter skinned people, were in the houses, back in the day of slavery, and the separation between that. That just reminds me of, like, I'll never forget when I was in high school, and the cafeteria ladies always gave everybody else extra pizza, except for me. Like I never got my extra slice of pizza, and so it was to the point where I felt like it was like a biased behavior. It was like,
That's real shit. That really happened.
it was a biased behavior. Like I didn't get extra food because I was hungry. I was still on a reduced lunch like everyone else. And I'll never forget my principal, Mr. Dawkins. He pulled me in his office and had to explain to me that story of back in the day of slavery, lighter skinned people were in the house, and just that separation. And it's like, I still have to like think about like why is that? And that those type of things, they'll stick with me, because there's also things that I've been denied because I wasn't seen as equal, and that piece of that's up there.
Man, it's so crazy to me. You know what I mean? All of this, at the end of the day, you have to teach your kids, and you, even as an adult, if you weren't taught a lot of these things young, it's so important that you learn how to love yourself. It's so crazy, because even when we talk about dark-skinned and light-skinned women, because I've seen situations where I've been around dark-skinned women, light-skinned women getting more of, the attention. And then once again, that creates a separation, a divide in between them, to where they're hating on each other. And it's always crazy to me. I'm not crazy to me now, but the older I get, the more you realize that the only reaction against that type of ignorance is really to love yourself. If you're not getting, if people can't see your value because of your skin color or because of your hair, that's them who's missing out. And it's going to be them people who try to double back and deal with you later, you know what I mean, because of their own ignorance. And it's wild, just because there are beautiful dark-skinned women, beautiful light-skinned women. There's beautiful women across all walks of life. But at the end of the day, the fact that, we're in this European culture that kind of pushes lighter skin features more than dark skin features, that I just think that we've learned to hate who we are. And I mean, that's so tough, just because, even my mother, dark skinned women, most of us dark skinned men come from dark skinned women. And the fact that, we look for anything but our own, it shows once again the insecurities within ourselves. Like, how do y'all think that we change that? How do y'all, how do we create that confidence?
And that's what I was just about to say. Where do we learn that value that you just spoke about? If when we grow up, we don't hear that, oh, you so beautiful, you little chocolate drop. You know what I mean? You don't hear. I wasn't told enough that I'm valued, that I'm, what this is right here is precious. You know what I mean? So where do we, because I'm seeing that now. That's what we're doing now as adults.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? I'm saying where or why did it stop in the first place?
Well, I think we got to start with kids. Like, we got to, from the get go, like James said, we got to start instilling with the youth. But I think it's also like more layers to that, especially when it comes to like our space. So not only uplifting the kids, but we got to start congregating together as Black people in general and just having a good time and having experiences where love is spread and shared. Because overall, we need to stop feeding into drama. I think what's the most negative thing about Black people is that we got Love and Hip Hop Atlanta, Love and Hip Hop this, Love and Hip Hop that. Like, we enjoy the shit out of drama. Like, beefing with each other, that shit's so fun for us to watch. Like, it's dope as hell, from Facebook in the streets all the way up until, like, Black Hollywood. Like, we love beefing with each other. We've got to stop. We've got to go ahead and just cut that drama line that we've got and just end that. So it's like, we've got to come together in spaces where we spread a lot of love, to where both our light-skinned brothers and our dark-skinned brothers and sisters can feel love regardless of what skin color you are. Like, Tay can't help that she's light-skinned. She did not ask to be light-skinned. You know what I mean? I can't help I'm dark, but it's just the fact of needs to be spaces where we all love each other. And I think that's where, in other places of the country where Black people are just more unified, regardless from light-skinned people to dark-skinned people, is because they got spaces, we just all Black. And at the end of the day, we see nothing but Black people, whether it's a lighter shade or not. But here in Denver, that white person as the middle, there's a comparison, like, oh, well, you actually fit the hierarchy that is around here. So we just got to have more spaces for each other, enjoy more love, and cut this drama shit. Like, that's got to be dead in our culture. We're never going to start loving, because it's always pushing against the love we throw in. We just down to beef with each other.
Yeah, man, even
Definitely.
talking about these other states, you know what I mean? I think that's one of the differences between being Black in Denver and being Black once again in Texas, Louisiana. And I think that's why so many Black people are apt to, like, yo, I'm out of here. Just because, once again, you can go to those places and, Black is beautiful, all shades of Black. And, being in Colorado, once again, being the only, being in, even me, like, even when I was growing up in the East Side, it was pretty much all Black, you know what I'm saying? And there was a lot of schools that were Black, but I was always bused outside of the community to school. So, I was always around a large majority of white people. I was, even once again, I credit my grandfather, my mother, my father for a lot of my confidence, because I was the only Black male in the school that I went to, my grade from 6th grade through my junior year in high school. And you can see how being in those environments can, you know what I'm saying, make you think or, question your own worth, just because all you see and all that's represented is other cultures or people that, don't look like you.
Go ahead,
I
Tanisha.
think that
You gonna say
I,
something?
I was just gonna say, I think that teaching definitely has to start with your kids. Like, I always make sure I make a point and tell my sons they're beautiful all the time, because they're dark skinned. And even though we've got this whole different generation, some of those complexities, and problems with appearance and self love, they're still kind of there. Like, I see them in my older son. So I've always told them from the time they were born, and even like my nieces, they're dark like me, and they have like super curly, wild hair. And I'm always telling them, like, your hair is beautiful. This is a good grade of hair. Like, I, I, I think that it is very important, because when you're so young, that's when the imprint happens. So if we start there and they've already got the mindset that I'm beautiful, people that look like me are beautiful, this is who I am, and this is good enough. And they learn at a young age, all they're going to do is just keep building on it as they get older and older and become a stronger and stronger concept. And so that is extremely important. So we as parents and as leaders need to love ourselves. We have to find that first, and then we need to teach it to them, so that it is no longer lost, that it is just a natural part of their life, just in just regular repertoire. They're already like, shit, I'm good like this. I don't need any additional enhancements. So we need to love ourselves first, and then push that love onto our kids.
Yes, indeed. Yes, indeed. Let me go ahead and tap in real fast. My man James, he was saying we are all products of our environment. People think life is greener on the other side, and it's not. It's greener where you water it. we see and meet new ethnicities. They're different, and different creates curiosity. Asking questions is healthy, but I personally was never taught that. Yeah, and that's a cold point. He said, "It's greener where you water it." My man, he said, Terrell Davis and Morris Chestnut changed the game for dark-skinned cats. Shout out to Denver Broncos and the best man. All right. Also, given everything said, these experiences make us want to fit in, and the more we do so, we disappear, much like Tetris. Okay. Real quick, let me go ahead and add this question in too. So, looking at everything that we were saying too, you know, I always come back and look at interracial relationships. You know, folks, they always say they got a big problem when they see a white man with a black woman or a black man with a white girl and stuff like that. And I'm like, okay, that's cool and everything that you feel that way. But have you thought about it from their experience? Always try to look at it from their experience, because I know some white folks who's been rocking with some black folks. I mean, they married right now, plus 20 plus years. They kids is black. I know some other white folks whose family disowned them because they started dating a black man and stuff like that. So I'm just looking at the strength of those relationships in terms of, because people, they say love is love. You know what I mean? You can't tell nobody who the fuck to love or who the fuck is gonna love you. You know what I mean? But you know, they always come back down to, how can you get with somebody who don't understand your culture, who don't understand what it's like to grow up being you and your struggles? You know, what is y'all's input on that point right there? You know what I mean?
You know,
on that point, before I throw this question out.
hey, Unc, I always sit and think, like, when I hear somebody, especially a black person, say, like, I just don't see how you can marry a white person or white person. You should marry a white person. It off the get lets me know that they never thought of a world free of oppression, that they never once sat down and considered what this world could look like if none of this oppression shit existed. And that troubles the hell out of me, because it's like, if you're a black person and you give a damn about the community and you want to work with the community, your ultimate goal should to be create a world where oppression does not exist for our people. So if that's your goal and that's the shit you're working towards every day, if you do that, then you would understand that if oppression didn't exist, we wouldn't look at white people the way we look at them. We wouldn't see them as our former slave masters. We wouldn't see them as our oppressors, the ones who control us. We would see them as another existing human being who has differences in this world, but like not of a harm to us. And like, that's the reality I want to create, and that's the reality I want to push for. And if you're pushing for that reality, you should be comfortable with interracial marriage, because we want people to love people regardless. Like, I don't want to constantly be at an opposition of white people or Hispanic people or Chinese people. Who the hell wants to live like that? And I think that's black people falling in love with oppression, falling in love with systematic disadvantages. They fall in love with being at a disadvantage, and that shit's so weird to me. We got so comfortable at this that we'll literally go against what a perfect world would look like, what a perfect world would exist like. We're willing to go against that shit because we're so locked into this oppression. And that's what's so deep about the slavery shit and this whole thing is that it literally twists the shit out of our mind to where we don't even want a reality that's better for us. It's a reality that keeps us at our position. So that shit just baffles me, man. I had to throw that out first. That shit baffles me.
And Huff, man, it's crazy because I agree with you. But you know, so this is the only, because I agree with you completely. I think that all of us should be working for a better world and one that is free from oppression. Now, this is the only thing that makes that hard, and especially for me. And this is because, okay, as black people, you know, in America, we are a very small part of the population. Now, when they talk about, now, I honestly believe, and you know, everybody doesn't have to agree with me, but I believe as black people in America, black people are descendants of these slaves, that we are completely different. We are basically, we've transformed into a different, like we don't really share too many similarities with Africans. You know, we don't have any contact with that. But what we built as a people over here is so beautiful, and it shows just because of how much the world takes from us, how much the world follows our trends, our fads, all of that different type of stuff. Now, my point is saying that is that when they say that the black man is at risk of being extinct, they're not talking about black people all over the world. We're talking about the black man that was created here in the United States. And, you know, there is no Mexican people, they're not in jeopardy of having, you know what I'm saying? There's always going to be a lot of Mexican people that, you know, are strictly Mexican who, you know what I'm saying, who really push for that culture. There is always going to be, you know what I'm saying, Europe, plenty of European white people. They're all, you know what I'm saying, these people have a base. They have places where they can come back to. My point is, because I have no problem at all with interracial dating, but man, I just think that we need to make sure that we preserve some of our culture. And I wouldn't have a problem, as much of a problem with interracial marriage, if we were on the same foot as everybody. Like, the world you're talking about is perfect if black people weren't hated as much as we are, if we weren't discriminated as much as we are. So like, if my daughter in her generation reaches that, then hey, go mix this what you want. But until black people get our respect here in this country, I don't see myself going to another culture, you know what I'm saying, or marrying outside of my culture and providing, giving all of, you know what I'm saying, my abilities as a black man to that culture, you know what I'm saying, instead of not bringing black babies into this world, you know what I'm saying? So that's
can I respond to that real quick? Can I respond? Because I'm with, so that on the flip side of that, because I'm with you, I'm on the same accord. Like, I will not marry outside of my race, because I think currently in the historical space that we are in right now, it is more essential for us to marry each other so we can make sure that we still reproduce, and like we have, like you said, the black man that was created here in America. But that's me and your mission. I don't have a problem with that, but to demonize another brother and exile him from the culture is basically doing the same thing as going on and going into an interracial marriage. So it's like, I don't find the benefit in demonizing, you know what I'm saying, demonizing the black man who chooses, or the black woman who chooses to marry outside of his race, because that's the fight that only bold niggas like me and you are willing to take on. You know what I'm saying? A lot of black men are bold enough to that pressure. But if we build this cultural space that we're talking about, we should another generation who will naturally value itself, because under oppression, like, this is what people, I don't think, are understanding. Under oppression, us going to these kids and saying you need to marry a black woman because we're at risk of going extinct is not going to be as powerful as raising them in a culture that teaches them to love themselves and uphold each other. That's what's going to produce more marriages between black people, not telling black children that you can't marry outside of your race right now because it might cause us to go extinct. That's not going to be powerful enough. You got to love that's powerful enough. Fear's not going to be enough. I agree with you. I just think we can't belittle our brothers and sisters.
And bro, that's 100%. I agree with you. The only thing that I gotta ask you, and back to that, are some of these black people marrying outside of their race out of hate for their race? You know what I'm saying? Like, just as much as you were just saying, like, trying to tell a black kid, you know, you need to marry a black woman because we need to reproduce. Well, you know, you're saying that, once again, that's not going to be powerful. And I hear that. And once again, I don't think that anybody who is married outside of their race should be demonized. That's wrong. You know, they're still black people. They're still a part of our community. My whole point is that I just get worried about us still existing in some form. And I would love a race of us to actually see us get to that level before, you know what I'm saying, we really get to the point of letting our race go. But
let me jump in real fast. Tay, can I ask you a personal question?
Yes.
Have you ever dated a white dude?
No.
Okay. Why not?
We just had this talk the other day.
I just don't. That's just not a preference for me. Like, I do not see myself, even with the light skin though. Like, there's certain things, like, I can't do it. Like, you got to be darker than me. I get white, so.
So Nisha, when you was dating your white dude, did you feel any kind of hate towards yourself at that time?
Kind of towards the end, there wasn't hate. I felt, and it sounds kind of weird to say, but like, I felt like a sense of betrayal, like I was doing something wrong. This man was, you know, he was really nice, he was sweet, but dating him was not going to help the greater good. like what you're kind of talking about, James. Like it is important for us to strengthen our numbers, to show our children examples of beautiful Black love. And for me, I was just like, I'm not, even though I'm having a good time and I'm enjoying myself, this is kind of selfish because I've got these sons and I've got these nieces. And at the end of the day, how does this help us as a whole? And then, there were lots of other things that just weren't working out. And so it ended eventually anyway. But I didn't date him because of any type of self-hate. But during the course of dating him, I did feel that guilt. Like I was where I wasn't supposed to be.
I mean, so even you said that everything he was doing everything right. Like he was taking care of you. You didn't have to ask him to pay certain bills and stuff like that. What did you do in return? Like, is there a certain behavior? Is there a certain way that you acted with him than you was acting differently with Black men that you potentially dated?
I'm sure there wasn't anything. And I don't think I was doing anything or offering anything on purpose. With him, it was just easier to let my guard down and let him do the things that he did. Up until that point, that kind of my experience with dating Black men, like there had to be a little bit of a level of defense because I felt like the things that I wanted and the things that I, were asking for, Black men made me feel like that was too much. And then this is crazy because it was a white man that told me, you're not asking for too much, you're asking the wrong people for it. I learned that from other Black people. Now, I know we've all seen that in some type of form, like on, an app, a meme or something like that, but it's very true. But it took a white person to tell me that. I learned that from a white person before I ever saw it on Facebook or anything. And it was fucked up because I wasn't asking for a lot. It's not a lot to expect a man to treat you the way you want to be treated. It's not a bad thing to want to know what a man does for a living and how much money he makes. It's not because I'm a gold digger, because I need to know, do you have money? Because maybe you after me for just my money. Like they flip stuff around. Like, I don't want to tell a woman what I do and what kind of money I make because she's going to be a gold digger. No, I need to know, make sure we on the same page. And that, if the situation is up, that you're able to step into a role of being a provider. If you're not, then, we can't do anything. And so those things I got from the white man. And that's crazy because we weren't giving that to our own selves in the Black community. It's always like, do for yourself. You're a strong Black woman. You can handle this. Do it and carry me too, but let me be the man in the house. So it was hard. It was conflicting. And with him, I was able to let that guard down.
Okay. Oh man, that's a whole lot right there. You just threw a whole lot out there. You know what I mean? Before I jump to Tay, I see Huff want to respond. Go ahead.
You just said something so powerful to me. Like when you first just the notion that Black people didn't teach you that. You had to learn that from a white person. And like I just look at when you said you felt guilt, a lot of people have been in that situation. I've also been in that situation with a white woman, and I felt that same guilt that you felt. But it was because I had a certain level of consciousness about the reality that Black people are living in. I was able to feel that guilt. And I'm sure that's the same for you, that you have the same level of consciousness. And what it makes it like, it breaks my heart because the reality is that we are so rare. A lot of our brothers and sisters are not feeling that guilt, not feeling that responsibility to the community because they are so oppressed and because they are so marginalized and because they have such a low level of misunderstanding. And then also on the flip side to that, the even sadder part is some of us come from such impoverished and poor ass situations that the space that you and I have lived in was just heaven to them. And I just find that's crazy to really think about, is like, do we hold those Black people who don't have the strength like me and you accountable to the standard that we have? Like, how do we forgive them? How do we integrate them back into the community? Because you got to be strong-willed and have a high level of consciousness to even feel that guilt as a Black person. So how do we keep them in the community? Because they're not wrong if they don't have that same personality and thinking trait that we have. And I just wonder how we keep them in our community.
Let me go ahead and tap in real fast, and then we're going to jump to you, Tay, in a minute. I got a question for you, too. You know what I mean? All right, I got a humdinger unless James got one for you. You know what I mean? The audience, let's see what they got. So, G, she say, growing up, because I had a high yellow grandmother making me feel bad and degrading me as a child every opportunity she had. Yet sharing my yellow cousins with most high praises. I used to bully the living life out of my cousins, other light-skinned girls, and I didn't realize the trauma till I got older. So that's where it stemmed from, the truth. So true, because when I was a kid in school, I always got picked on. And now these same people see me and be like, damn, girl, is this really Denise? And I just look at them like, all right. Going through, it's like where I live in Texas, this white man has a restaurant and he was looking to hire a waitress, and I applied for that position and he would not hire a black waitress. He put all the black people in the kitchen. And they ain't stopped black folks from working either. You know what I mean? That's a whole nother conversation and topic too. And he doesn't like black people because his daughter was dating a black man when she passed. So he's always taking that out on all blacks, and it's just sad. I know white people down there that doesn't even deal with their grandkids because they are mixed with black. Yeah.
That right there.
Yeah. James, he say, I have a black father and a Chinese mother. Am I black or am I Chinese?
You're both.
Both, my brother.
All right. Nisha, Miss Nisha, when first engaging in your mixed relationship, where did the comfortability come from?
That comfortability just came from the fact that I already had knew him. We had a working relationship, and so that made it a little easier. It wasn't like he was just some guy that popped into my inbox or something weird like that. I already knew him.
Right on. Tay, so you say that there's I didn't realize this either. You know what I mean? I didn't realize that that there's even a separation amongst light skins that she just made clear. You know, she said that if a dude is lighter than her, then she ain't gonna talk to him. Why is that?
That could just like stem from my own personal experiences, but there is like something in the air about light skins being very like, your ego's big or you're too emotional or, those type of things. And I feel like it is somewhat true. It is like it is an ego thing for light skinned people to think that they are like pretty privileged, even for guys. And so I feel like because they have that, they do feel like they have the upper hand. And I've experienced that with light skinned guys. So it's like, no, that's why I wouldn't do it. Because at that point, it's kind of like, what are you giving to me that I can benefit from? Because it's not gonna go work. But yeah, there was a lot of points though that was made. Like I had growing up, my grandparents told my mom, she was cursed for having kids by a black man. My grandparents didn't like treat me and my sister the same or nothing like that. We had to get shit back and forth different states growing up, and yeah, it's a lot.
Man, it's crazy just because even what Tay's saying, man, I got my mother's mother and my father's mother are both lighter than Tay. You know what I'm saying? And both of them married dark-skinned black men darker than me. You know what I'm saying? Like real talk. What people assume from light-skinned people sometimes is that they just are, like Tay said, like, we believe we're better at this and that. Man, there's plenty of dark-skinned people who've had so much trauma. I mean, plenty of light-skinned people who have had the trauma of, wanting to be dark-skinned to fit in. Just as much as there's dark-skinned people who wanted to have the long hair and all that stuff. Like the trauma exists so much across, all of us, that is just crazy, man. And it's just wild even her talking about that, once again, just because I think the biggest thing that we need to do is try to learn how to understand and once again, love ourselves and then understand the person that we're dealing with. Because, a lot of our assumptions about people are truly wrong. You know what I mean? And then when we talk about white people, and black people even talk, going back to what Huff was saying, man, being around white people, and like he's saying, bro, they live amazing, live in beautiful houses, they're rich. It can be an appealing thing, but that's where we as black people, I really think that we have to step in and not allow some of that stuff to catch our view and our minds so much so that we want to leave our own. But you know, the trauma between between dark skin and light skin, people don't understand that both have their issues.
I mean, and even to that extent too, you know, I'm learning that what we put in our head is what comes out, is what we manifest in our life. You know, if we're consistently feeding into the love and hip hop, Alabama, love and hip hop, New England, you know, love and hip hop, you know what I mean? I don't know what the fuck, you know what I mean? So I'm throwing them out there, you know what I mean? And if that's what we doing, then that's the reality that's just going to manifest unbeknownst to us, even in our behavior. You know, so one of the things is, you know, even in Denver, and one thing that I'm looking at too is there's you know, Denver has some of the most disloyalist you know, natives across the country,
in the country. Yeah.
You know, that's even going from gang banging to claiming niggas hoods in LA and all that other shit to, you know, to sports, you know, to repping other teams. You know, and my thing is I don't watch sports. When I see a team, I'm always, yeah, let's go Denver. Let's go Colorado. I don't know who the fuck is playing, but let's go Colorado. You know what I mean? Everything is Denver for me. So, you know, just bringing that up too. How can we, you know, as because again, we're looking at being black in Denver. We're looking at being black in Denver. And right now, even growing up, and I'm still seeing it right now to this day, a lot of people who I know who were born and raised in Denver always want to say they from somewhere else. Why is that?
Mm-hmm.
Because this is viewed as a white state. And then when you go outside of this state, people don't even think there's black people in Denver. When I used to travel to New York and all these places when I was little, and like for basketball camps, people be looking at me like, you from where? What y'all ski to school? You know what I'm saying? They don't understand that we have black communities. And because of that, we don't have an identity across the nation. So when you go other places, people don't even really recognize us for, you know, the fact that we might have grew up in a place blacker than where they grew up. But because they view Denver and Colorado the way they do, you know, I think that is just a situation where, you know, we don't want to be viewed as like whitewashed. And I think Denver is viewed as like a whitewashed city as far as across the country.
And the coldest joke I ever heard was that Denver is Atlanta for white people. That shit hit me somewhere.
Say that again.
I said Denver is Atlanta for white people. I don't know if a joke had ever hit me so hard in my heart like it did, but I agree. Like I can't help but agree with it. Like when you meet, because I the same thing that James was talking about. Tay, I know you're about to speak about when you travel. They don't think black people existed in Denver. I'll never forget my roommate in college was from Rialto, California, which is right outside of LA. And when we graduated, his parents came in town and they was kicking it at the house. And his grandma, sweet old lady, was like, "So y'all be out there really riding horses everywhere and stuff like that?" And I was like, no, ma'am, no, ma'am. I said, I grew up back in the hood. I grew up around the Crips, the Bloods, like that's where it was. And my boy Tup was like, no, it's actually kind of like LA out there. And it's just amazing to me. Like we don't have no real recognition across country except for smoking weed and having mountains. And until black people come together and start unifying and creating our own identity that's unique, because I think that's what is really powerful about Denver is we got to stop trying to be like somewhere else. What's the Denver experience? What do people like me, Phil, James, all of us that grew up in this area, what the hell is it like for us? Because I know the East Side got its own identity. Like I know it's our own separate structure of people to where that it's different from everywhere else. When I was playing ball, I get into it with cats from Cali, and I'd be like, bro, I don't give a damn that you from LA, you from Detroit or wherever. I'm from the East Side of Denver, cause like that's all I can care about. That's how I rock. So we've got to start being more prideful in what it means to be black from Denver. And I guarantee you, everything else from Denver catches on the weed, the mountains, everything else. If black people believe cool enough here, we go have our own revolution.
Yeah, when people ask where I'm from, the Denver's the last place they think I'm gonna say. Everyone thinks I'm like Puerto Rican or Dominican, and I'm like, I'm black and white. Like that is it. And then they're like, you're from Denver, and I'm like, yeah, from Denver.
What so I would ask too, um, would y'all say that would y'all say it's harder to be black in Denver?
Versus like being black
Versus
anywhere else, or just here, period.
just being black trying to make it successful here versus anywhere else?
I think it's
Um.
in some ways it's, oh, I'm sorry, Nisha, go ahead.
Oh no, that's okay. I was really just kind of thinking about that question, and I wouldn't say it's harder necessarily. It's as hard as you make it. I definitely think that our path is a little more is a little rougher. You know, it is not as paved, but it's as hard as you want to make it. And some people use just for the simple fact that they are black as their excuse or reason for not maybe being as successful. And that again, that's going to be a self thing, like you where you have to kind of work on you from the inside out to know that whether your skin was lighter, darker or not, your destiny is completely in your control, regardless of the city that you're being grown that you're growing up in, or the shade of your skin. It's going to be as hard as you allow it to be, as hard as you make it.
Me personally, I love being a black man from Denver, and I mean, I think that came with even. I always loved the E. I always loved where I was from, but at the same time, I think even getting older, I've appreciated being from Denver more, just because what I think has made me more of a unique. I think we're unique just because of the fact that we're such small numbers, and the fact that we're around so many white people. I think that we're really unique because don't get me wrong, being in Texas, being in Atlanta, all these places, once again, it's fun being around a lot of black people. But then I think that limits a lot of black people too, not being around these other races. Because I think as black men from Denver, that we can move everywhere. You know what I'm saying? So I think we know how to move in and out of all circles. I don't care if it's white, if it's New York, California, down south, like we got it all. So, it's I think we have a unique struggle being in Denver, but I'm not gonna say it's harder necessarily. You know what I mean?
I was gonna say the same thing. I can't say it's harder. I think it's just different because we live in a very liberal ass state. Like the white people here fuck with black people, at least pretend to. So like the direct racism that some black people are dealing with in the South, like just straight in your face, is not the same here. But at the same time, you're quicker to assimilate to white culture out here because it's more of a fast track to success because we got less lifted. But to speak to James' point, though, I feel like we produce chameleons. Like we really produce black men. Like I feel like there's not a place on this globe I can't go live in. So that's a hell of a right there.
I mean, and I was even speaking on too. Again, we do have a community in Denver where we have millions floating among billions. I'm gonna say billions floating among black folks, a black community. All right, and these black community, these millionaires and billionaires, is not doing enough. So when I'm saying when you reach a certain level, this is my personal belief. When you reach a certain level, I believe that you cannot continue to do the same shit that you were doing when you were down here at this level.
Oh yeah, hell
If you
yeah.
are up here, the responsibility to your people, everything is supposed to, you're supposed to take on that extra responsibility without being told to. You can do it, and my thing is, the black folks in Denver, I don't think that money, again, it's not moving. You know what I mean? And it's not especially the black men. You know what I mean? So I'm gonna say that part, but I know if you want to tap in, let me tap in real fast. James, you say both, and I agree. But how do you decide where my responsibilities are supposed to go to? Call me selfish, but childhood was fucked up. My responsibility is to my future children to not just give them what my wife and I didn't have, but to instill the value in them so that they can make healthy decisions in life. So since my wife is not black or Chinese, then are the children we have not allowed to support anything black? Mm,
Hey man, now that's a deep subject,
mm.
and I want to touch on that. You know what I mean? So this is my biggest thing about interracial. Anybody interracial, if you're black, if you you black and you're white, if you're black and you're Chinese, I think that once again, It all comes from acceptance and love within yourself. I think, of course, if your kids are have black, that they should know their blackness and support their blackness and be around their black people. But you still have to make sure that you recognize the other side within you. I've had light-skinned friends who had white moms who hate themselves because they hate. Well, you can't hate white people and be half white and not hate yourself. You can't be black and Chinese and hate Chinese people and not hate yourself. My point in this is saying that I don't think that mixed people, I don't think that they should, anybody that's mixed should have to just identify with being black. I think it's fine
Thank
to
you.
identify with both races. You know what I'm saying? And I think that you have to because it's a part of you. So, I mean, to answer his question, of course, your kids should support, you know what I mean, the black within them, but they should also support the other side within them. I honestly believe that mixed race people, instead of choosing a side, should be more of the bridge between all of these cultures. You know what I'm saying? Instead of having to say, "Oh, well, I'm black, fuck white people," or I'm, you know, what I mean, I'm gonna choose the white side, fuck the black side. I think the beauty within our mixed race people is the fact that they have all of these things within them. So I think you just have to accept all of yourself. You know what I mean? Not just the black, the white, the Chinese, but all of who you are.
Yes, indeed. Yes, indeed. We'll finish running through real fast. Thank you on that. Thank you on that. You don't need to know anything about sports to appreciate the greatness of any and every athlete. Respect and appreciate greatness in all aspects of life. Yes, indeed. Yes, indeed. My thing is, no matter where you go, it's going to be problems. It's up to you how you make it what you want to be. Make it what you want to be. Because I live in Texas, and I said I would never go back to Denver. When I asked, is being black in Denver harder? He said, absolutely. To me, it's all about how make it, whether you're in Denver or anywhere else. To me, it's all about, okay, G said, black people in Denver don't even smile back when you smile at them or even speak. They always want to know what you were staring at or what's your problem. Always thinking somebody want to fight, not realizing that someone just want to show some love. Trying to show some
And
love,
that
yeah?
starts with us. If people don't smile. I smile all the time, and I hadn't forgot because we've been wearing these masks for so long. And I'm like, they probably looking at me like, what the fuck is she looking at? And I'm actually smiling at them under the mask, so I put it down. And sometimes I have had the occasional female be like, what you look at? And I'd be like, sis, your hair is beautiful. I love it. And then all of a sudden that attitude gone. It's like it melts away. Then she's smiling. She's like, thank you. I like your earrings. And I'm like, yeah, we don't got the enemies. I don't need to fight you. I don't know you. And that is that self-love. Again, when you start realizing that you are not in competition with anyone, because you can't be. It's impossible. I can never be Tay, right? And Tay can never be me. But we can appreciate the beauty in each other. There's no reason for me to compete with her. And there's no reason for her to compete with me. If it's after a job, if it's going after a man, if it's whatever, it's the best woman wins type shit. Okay, if that man happens to like her features and he likes her more, I'm not even in that race. I can't even set a foot in that race because I can't change my skin, I can't change my hair, and just like a vice versa. If that man is just really into dark-skinned women and he don't really fuck with light-skinned women, she can't even enter that race. She's not dark-skinned. There's nothing she can do. So that's where you bow out gracefully. You accept what you have to offer, and you know that that's got to be good enough. You go to the table with what you have.
Yes, indeed. Yes, indeed. So real quick. So, in terms of next steps, you know what I mean? So it was proposed to me, that we should do a 2-part series where we talk about, sex, the need for sex in the community from our culture. We have a conversation where we have black women where we have women of color at that table. And when I say black, I'm referring to, all of us, you know what I mean? Because I think we are the original people. Mm-hmm. So we, you know what I mean? Except for whites. But, and then we have a conversation similar with the fellas. All right. So let's bounce that around to see who's going to start next week. You know what I mean? In terms of, because next week is going to be, the flowers and the roses and the hearts and hopefully some of y'all niggas get some coochie. You know what I mean? It's going to be that. You know what I mean? So that's where we on right now. So you know, we're gonna have that conversation that's gonna lead to y'all getting some cutty. I got some cutty last night. You know what I mean? All right. That's our time for the day, man. That's our time. We gonna tap in with y'all next Tuesday. All right.
Yes, sir.
Okay.
Hey,
See
much
you
love,
guys.
y'all.
Peace.
Bye.
All right,
Good
y'all.
time of the week. Appreciate you.
Peace.